Hello and welcome to Times TV. Here we have with us is Mr. Edwin Samuel, who is the British government's Arabic media spokesperson. Mr. Samuel, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, Khadija. It's a great honor. Please call me Edwin.
Okay, Edwin, thank you. Edwin, what brings you to Oman?
Well, I come to Oman regularly because my job is a regional job. I live in Dubai, but I go all around the region of the Middle East and North Africa. I love Oman on a personal level, but on a professional level, it's a very important audience for the British government.
Yes.
So I'm here to do some interviews.
Very good. So, Edwin, how long have you been in the region for?
So I've lived on and off in the region for around 15 years. I started my time in the region in Amman and in Damascus, and then I went on to study more Arabic and lived in Riyadh, and now I live in Dubai. But this job is perhaps the most interesting because I get to travel to all the countries in the region.
So what does your job really entail?
So you won't be surprised to hear, or maybe you will, your audience will be surprised to hear that working for the British government as the regional Arabic media spokesperson, this is the first ever interview I have done in English.
Yeah.
So it's a great honor for me, and it's a little bit odd to speak in a language that is mine. But the idea behind this job really started 10 years ago, after September the 11th, when the British government felt that it was important that we were able to project our voice and our point of view to Arabic-speaking audiences in their own language.
Okay.
And it was really coincided with the 24-hour news channels that we saw at that time, Al Jazeera, and then later Al Arabiya.
Very cool. So, in a sense, the government took an initiative to kind of blend everything together so that there's more of a communication and understanding between each other, the two different nations?
I guess that's true. I think it was felt that the Arabic-speaking populations across the region were starting to have regional news coverage, and they wanted their interests were slightly different, and the messaging that we needed to use was slightly different. And at that time, of course, we had many radical organizations, the most frightening of which was Al-Qaeda, broadcasting on those networks, so it was an ability to answer back.
Okay, very cool. So how long did it actually take you to learn the language? And you speak very fluently, so I'm very impressed.
I speak English fairly fluently. I'm not sure whether my Arabic is so fluent, but I think, as you will know, the Arabic is an immensely rich and in sometimes playful, but also very heavy language.
Of course.
And so it's a lifelong project. I wouldn't say that I've learnt it, but I got to a level, alhamdulillah, with help from my organisation, my ministry, which is the Foreign and Commonwealth Office of the British government, which is our foreign ministry, and they have a programme that gets you to a level that is operational within about 15 months full time, but it's a big investment.
Okay, yeah, no, I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
Can you explain to me your role at the FCO?
So, as regional Arabic media spokesperson, it's my job to look at the messages that the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom and the Foreign Minister give to English-speaking audiences and adapt them for the interests of my audiences, who are Arabic-speaking audiences. The predominant and the major part of my job is about explaining British government policy, and that's mostly foreign policy, but not only. For example, last week the British government issued a report on how to tackle Islamophobia in the United Kingdom. And so this was an important piece of communication for me to explain to my audiences that for the British government, Islamophobia and racist attacks, or verbal or otherwise, were unacceptable as far as the British government is concerned. And so for me, it was not just saying exactly what it involved, but also explaining the motivations behind it.
So how important is Oman to the UK's current administration?
Well, I think Oman is a historical ally of the United Kingdom.
Of course.
And I'm not the ambassador here. You have a fabulous ambassador here. You're very lucky, Mr. John Wilkes, His Excellency. And he would describe it a lot better. But in the regional context, which is what I do, I would say that Oman is one of those countries where we have a huge affinity, not just on a governmental level or a royal family level where the ties are thick, but also on a people-to-people level. We understand what you call wasatiyya.
Moderation? Is that okay?
And so the idea of dialogue with all, openness, tolerance, essentially the social model that is the Omani social model is very much the British social model.
Okay.
And so we feel a great sense of being at home here. And so I think we look to Oman to be one of those outward-looking countries in the region that can help build bridges rather than walls.
Yes, yes, yes. We had Lord Astor come a few months ago, and he talked about investments within Oman. So I was wondering if you had any idea of
Sure.
kind of
Well,
investments.
I'm told, and I do have figures to say this, that 46% of the direct investment from foreign countries into Oman comes from the UK, and I'm proud to say that. And that's not just about British companies wanting to make good investments, although they do. It's also about the fact that there's a recognition that the vision, that the economic vision and social vision from His Majesty the Sultan, is one that it puts Oman back in its historical role of being a gateway to the Arabian Peninsula, between the Arabian Peninsula and the rest of the world. And so I think, if we look to the Duqm port that is being built, in which many British companies are investing and the British government is facilitating, that is not just a major piece of infrastructure work, but it's a game changer in terms of infrastructure into the diversification of the economy here away from oil.
Of course, of course. Wonderful. So, as you know, Brexit will begin the process on the 29th of March this month, obviously. Do you know of any arrangements or plans between Oman and the UK, either right now or post-Brexit?
Well, I think the first thing to say is that what's known as Brexit, which is the decision from the British people by referendum to exit the European Union, is one that is quite a big decision. And it needs to be taken in step by step. And the first step, as you say, is to press the trigger, and that's what's known as the Article 50 notification, which will happen on the 29th. And then there is a negotiation period with the other members of the European Union about the exit. Now, until that deal has been done, until that exit has been negotiated, it's too early for us to start negotiating new trade deals. In fact, we're not allowed.
Okay.
But that it doesn't stop me from telling you what I think is quite apparent to probably most people in Oman, is that Britain has always been a place that has had its doors open to foreigners. In fact, we have profited from the fact that we've been a global player. And I think the Prime Minister has been pretty clear that this withdrawal from the European Union is not withdrawal from the world.
Yes.
And that we've got to make some new deals with some old friends, and I can't think of an older friend than Oman, and in particularly the Khalij. And many of your viewers and many of your readers will have seen the Prime Minister at the GCC summit recently, and she made clear that Britain was ready to invest in its traditional relationships to see them flourish.
So the Trump. So the U.S. administration has been taking a tougher stance on Iran and the rest of the Middle East in particular. Do you feel that the English will follow?
I can't comment, obviously, on American foreign policy.
Yes.
But on behalf of the UK, I mean, I think we're very clear-eyed about Iran. Many of your readers will know that our embassy was overrun by Iranians, and we had to close it a few years back. We've now reopened that, and it's our intention to build good relations with Iran. Iran's one of the oldest civilizations and biggest countries in the world, and so it's important from a British national interest, but also for global security, that we have Iran as part of the international community able to play a positive and constructive role. And part of that, of course, was the nuclear deal that the international community agreed with Iran, which is a very good thing as far as Britain is concerned, because a nuclear Middle East would be a very dangerous Middle East, and one that is a threat to the United Kingdom and other countries. That said, I mean, I think we have to be clear-eyed that many of the activities of the Iranians are concerning. Some of the direct interference into the internal affairs of neighbouring countries is really very concerning, and I think we share those concerns. So I don't think we're ready to close embassies. I don't think we're ready to close dialogue, because we believe in dialogue, and we don't believe in disproportionate punishment, if you like.
No, of course.
But I think what we do believe in is that Iran should come back into the mainstream of the international community by showing goodwill through its behaviour.
I agree. Edwin, one more question. As you know, yesterday the new electronic ban on flights came out. Could you describe to our viewers a little more on what that ban is about, why it's in these particular airports, airlines, for example?
Well, I can explain to you some of the motivation behind it,
Sure.
and the idea behind it. I mean, it is the first duty of every government to make sure its citizens are safe, and in this case that travellers to the United Kingdom are safe.
Yeah.
So I think the first thing to say is we keep these measures under review all the time. Yeah, and we don't do these things lightly, because we understand it's not just an irritation for passengers, but it has economic consequences.
Yeah.
But the first duty is security, and I think in this case we have found that we have come to an understanding that there are certain countries where it's the likelihood of risk is greater than others, and we have decided that for those countries there are restrictions on what kind of electronic equipment passengers can take on aircraft. It won't affect most Omanis, because most Omanis take direct flights to the UK, and it's not a country that's affected. But I don't know that any government would apologise for protecting its citizens or those travellers travelling to its country.
Yes, Saudi Arabia. So how does that interfere with allies?
We work incredibly closely with the Saudi Arabian authorities, in particular the security apparatus, and I think you'll find there's been very close collaboration on this, and this is not a decision that's taken lightly.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for speaking to me, Edwin.
Thank you for having me.
No worries. And thank you everybody for watching Times TV.